Today's show is brought to you by Brautag.com. Brautag, the new Brautag Premium Brewing System, is a high-quality Herm system developed by yours truly to take your brewing to the next level. And by yours truly, I mean Todd and James. The Brautag consists of 3 premium stainless steel 20-gallon kettles, perfect for brewing 15-gallon batches, and each comes equipped with durable ball valves and easy-to-use stainless steel quick connects. The Brautag controller is an innovative, no-nonsense controller developed to make your brew day better. It's easy to understand, which makes it easier for you to fully control the brewing process. Dial in your temperatures with ease and control the entire process at the flick of a switch or the push of a button. The Brautag also comes with 2 premium centrifugal pumps and all the necessary cables conveniently labeled just for you. Go to Brautag.com and learn more about our special introductory offer, which includes $500 off MSRP, free shipping, and a ton of free add-ons, such as a 15-gallon recipe kit of your choice, 3 packs of liquid Imperial Yeast, a premium refractometer, pH meter and testing kit, a 1-year membership to Brewer's Friend Premium, SandStep sanitizer, Brew Clean, and more. Head over to Brautag.com to find a list of our retail partners and let us help make your brew day better.
Entertaining shows with content that spreads information and sparks discourse throughout the community. This is the Pearl Media Network.
Dip tube dilemma, liquid line length in a draft system, tips for traveling with kegs, and some of our own brew day mistakes. This is Homebrew Happy Hour, episode 241. And welcome to the Homebrew Happy Hour. This is the show where we supply the answers to your homebrewing questions and discuss all things related to craft beer. If you have a question that you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them by using 325-305-6107. I am your host, Joshua Stubing. Today, I'm joined by the Director of Operations at cmbecker.com on vacation, Mr. James Carlson, as well as the President and Resident Chief Keg Washer, pretending like he's on vacation, Mr. Todd.
Yep, I'm at the beach too.
He's holding the fort down.
Oh, Todd.
This is as close as I'm going to get to the beach this summer.
So that's sad.
I know, right?
This right here. So I can be on the beach.
Oh,
So
Todd.
I can be on the beach as well.
Oh, Todd.
Uh,
You are, you're funny, Todd. Let me cut the music. We don't need the music anymore. I should have done tropical music for today since, James, you're on at the beach. I should have done we need a new reggaeton.
I wanted to do it on the beach, but it's so bright. I can't see the phone. There's a lot of noise on the background. So I just thought I'd do it in my room.
Yeah, looking good. I love that shirt, by the way. That's a Todd Burns special, if I do believe.
Yeah, Todd and Liz got me this from Hawaii. How about that?
I have one too. I'm going to wear on my beach trip next week, which I'm looking forward to.
You have 50 of them. What are you talking about?
I have one.
You're actually wearing one right now.
But I have one that you gave me from Hawaii is what I.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you gave James and I. You came back from Hawaii with gifts, and I was like, oh, it's probably going to be those like you're probably going to bring me back. What's the Kona coffee? So I stopped using Folgers. But instead,
I was going to get you one of those Hawaiian girls that dance on your dashboard, but
that would have been great. Why didn't you do that? I would have loved that. Are you kidding me?
the shirt was kind of an upgrade, though.
The shirt is.
Oh, way better.
Oh,
way better.
I agree. James, we're not going to waste your time too much because you are on vacation. I appreciate you checking in. Real quick.
Oh, no, I enjoy this, but I got two 16-year-old girls sitting on the couch looking at me like, come on, Dad, let's go.
Well, can't they just stay on the beach?
We did it all day yesterday, all day the day before, half a day on Monday, and they're ready to go shopping. So I told them I would take them into Corpus and I would take them shopping. So they're all dolled up.
That sounds terrible. I'm glad I'm not having to go shopping.
Doesn't it? Thank God they have their own money.
Yeah, I was just saying the shopping part I could probably do without as well. But you like you said, it's their own money. If you just have to.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You should try to go by the barn. That's the place that my cousins own. My wife's cousins own.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's called the Barn and the Shed in Corpus.
The Barn and the Shed. I'll have to Google that.
Yeah, Google it. Remember Claudia from Becker took a picture on a wall that said like "I love beer," and she didn't even know it, but that was Liz's cousin's business that she did. She came all the way from Germany and somehow found that wall and took a photo of it. And my wife's family, that's their business. So
that's so cool. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely going to have to look it up.
You do. Yeah. I was going to ask because I would be. I have to ask you because you're there and you've been sending me pictures. But tell me about the beer drinking. What are you? It looked like you were enjoying more St. Arnold. A lot of St. Arnold.
Yeah, they had the summer pills, which is a must-have. If you see it, get it. It's wonderful. I don't know if I'm probably butchering the name, but Harbach makes a they call it their barbecue lager, and it's just a regular easy drinking crushable lager, crispy lager. And then St. Arnold's had a fancy lawnmower beer this year that was really good, and I couldn't help it. They had a 12-pack on sale of the Bell's Ale, Two-Hearted Ale. Yep.
Nice.
So that's kind of what I've been drinking, and it's all been really good.
It looks like it. You were sending me photos of that lawnmower where I was like,
I can really hear him well, Josh, but I can barely hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me better?
That's better.
That's definitely better. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Hopefully the first part didn't get cut out. I say that some people are okay when I get cut out. They're not. They don't lose any sleep when it's my part that's cut out. Yeah, you sent me.
But you know what? I went to Specs and they had no fruit, none at all.
Well,
I couldn't believe
it. Even in my neck of the woods, Frew is only at the one at South Park Meadows. I cannot get the Specs in San Marcos to carry it, but my buddy who works for a distributor got Frew in my local HEB. So I can go get the cans of Frew at my local HEB. Thank you, Louie, for doing that for me.
Dang, I was looking for, hopefully they had cans because you can't bring bottles on the beach. So everything I got was cans.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it. I have a 4-pack in my fridge. I should have given it to you for the trip.
You should have. You know what?
Yeah, Todd, I got to tell y'all, he has been holding down the fort for, I'm gone, and I know it hasn't been a fun week this week, but thank you, boss.
It's actually gone very smoothly. It's
good.
You left things in good order. Everything's been fine. So,
well, I love getting away, but sometimes when you have people there that you trust, it's a lot easier to get away and
I don't even want you to think about the 87 notes on your desk. Don't think about
that. Okay.
I was waiting.
Put that off till Monday.
I was waiting for that. I was just saying, who's gonna tell him? Who's gonna tell him? No, there's not 87 notes. I miss you from being here. I kept walking over there, and in your office door, shut. No one's in there, and keep forgetting. Like, why is James being so private? Oh yeah, he's at the beach.
It's actually been pretty much open and your light on the whole time. I keep shutting your light off and it comes back on, and then I realize it's because people are going in there to write things on the board that we need. So yeah,
and I've got that plant on the bookcase, and if you shut it with no light, Atlanta's real good about making sure it has plenty of water and plenty of light. So I've had that.
That's why that does so well. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, before we let you go, let me do the small talk real quick, and let me get you through listener feedback, and then we'll cut you loose so you can take those girls shopping. For our small talk for this week, it's your last call for the July recipe kits. They've been going out this week for our top tier Trub Club members. You can choose between the Hot Fellas IPA, which ships out with the Imperial Bartleby Kvike. I said it right. Or you can choose between the American Amble Amber Ale, which ships out with flagship from Imperial as well. It was almost overwhelmingly people choosing the Hop Fellas IPA. Of the like 58 recipes that went out this month. I believe like 48 of them were all Hopfellas. I think that Bartleby strain,
Wow.
it being new, I think people wanted to try it. I think people were interested in, a lot of people messaged me, look, I've never done a Kvike. I don't even know how to pronounce it. And I said, me neither. I don't know what to do either. But we've been getting a lot of listener feedback on this Kvike. So maybe, guys, we need to brew something. Someone left feedback. Definitely. It's not included on this show. I need to organize it. But they did I think it was our buddy Josh W. who told me he used it. He fermented outside with it, and it was like the best beer of this camping batch that they had done. It was some phenomenal thing where, like, yeah, I turned it around in a week and fermented outside, and it was delicious and clear. And I was like, what?
Cool.
What is this? Come on. What world are we living in? But
this can't be a beer.
This can't be. But anyway, that, and also, what else do I have? No, I don't have any other small talk. So let me do the listener feedback, and then we'll cut you loose, James. So with that being said, where's my... It's time for listener feedback. I just wanted you to be on for that one. This listener feedback for this week came from our buddy John, who used the texting hotline at 325-305-6107, and he wrote, "Keep up the great work, gents. On the podcast about keeping beer lines cool, I will tell that person that the beer tower fan kit on Keg Connection works like a charm. I highly recommend it if you have a tower on your keezer." I had to, Todd, you did a product showcase video on it, showing it.
Right.
I went and watched it again, and I don't know why I don't have one. It seems like that's a very affordable solution for keeping a tower consistently at the same temperature, or keeping the amount that you might lose between where the tower goes up and you serve versus the rest of your fridge. But like we had covered in that one episode, I mean, there's a slew of things you can do, and ultimately, I haven't had many issues with cooling on a tower configuration. But yeah. But that's pretty good feedback. It's a pretty reasonable price solution. A lot of people are using fans in their keezers and their kegerators to keep it all evenly distributed, so something doesn't freeze over or everything's kind of even and easy peasy. But anyways, James,
before he goes, I'm a little offended by something, Josh. Disappointed and offended. I just read the questions, which I usually don't do ahead of time, but I was afraid we might need James's help. And I noticed that you only put draft questions on here this week, not a single brewing question, assuming that we would not be able to answer them without James, and I find that highly offensive.
You think that was a coincidence? Of course I did.
No, of course I know it wasn't a coincidence. You loaded it with draft questions because James isn't on, and you didn't think I could answer it.
Here's the thing. This week we were supposed to have Mr. Scott Mast from Hang'em High Hops. He was going to do the episode with us, and then he had to reschedule for tomorrow, Friday the 30th. Then this morning he messages again and goes, "Man, guys, I can't do it. Let's do it next week." And I was like, "Scott, I like you. You're a good guy, but next week I'm at the beach. I'm not recording from the beach. We're recording 2 episodes this week. So what's going to happen is we'll all be back in town. So not this week, not next week, but the following, we're going to have Scott on, because I wanted James to talk to, because James, you have the most experience of the 3 of us with their hops. And whenever he dropped off and I realized, oh crap, we got to do an episode without him and without James, I'd better field a bunch of draft.
I'd like to meet the guy and discuss about how we utilize those and what stages and all of. Yeah, it'll be fun.
So I think it worked out.
James, we appreciate you being a team player and being on during your vacation, even though Josh has refused to do so.
I did want to mention one thing from last week's show, if I could.
Sure.
We were talking about disconnect cleaning, and we had got a listener that chimed in and said, "Hey, I can't believe you guys don't take those apart." And I kind of wanted to address that a little bit, because I did mention you don't really have to take those apart. What I should have said is, if you're doing a lot of dry hopping and you think that you have issues from time to time with hops clogging the tube and all that, absolutely take those apart. In normal situations where you don't have hop residue and hop particles to deal with, you can flush clean them just fine. But if you're doing late hop additions, or you don't have a real good way of clearing out the hop particles when you keg, you will need to take those disconnects apart because they will trap hop particles. But that all being said, if that isn't your brewing issues, you can flush clean them just fine. So he was correct. You do have to take those apart if you have issues with, and Todd, you've run into that when dry hopping.
I have, particularly more the dip tube than anything. I've clogged up dip tubes completely because I actually wasn't the one that dry hopped, because when I dry hop in bags, but somebody else dry hopped. I won't mention their names, and and I had to clear the dip tube out about 15 times. However, I will say, after that guy commented on that, I was curious. So I had just cleaned my beer lines about a few days before, a week before, whatever it was. So I went home and I took all 6 disconnects. I took the tops off all 6 of them and looked in there, and there wasn't a single particle of any kind in there. So,
good.
I had not, there wasn't anything. They were as clean as they could be. And all I did was just run the cleaning solution and then the clean water through there. So it did work, but I could see if you had a bunch of chunks of hops that some might stay in there, but they were pretty clean when I looked at them. Because remember, I had all that yeast that was on the bottom because I'd let them clarify in the keg quite a bit. So I actually stopped up a dip tube with the yeast. So I thought, you know what? I bet one of those disconnects has yeast in it, but it didn't. It was totally clean.
I am going to have to, I think, redo, because I had it for the listener feedback for the next episode we recorded, and I think we just adequately covered it. No, James, no, you did good, because it's better you were on it because you are Mr. CM Becker. I don't know why I didn't include it on this one. I should have done vice versa, honestly. I don't think clearly, but you're right. It was on YouTube, the comment, and that is the beautiful thing about getting feedback through our videos or through emails or whatever is there's a lot of perspectives. For us, our unique perspective is we don't really dry hop in the keg all that much. And so it's not pertinent to us, or it's not relevant rather to us, or it hasn't been, where, if I'm just pushing a bunch of basic, straightforward Kolsch's and stouts and pale ales, I probably don't have to disassemble that disconnect much, because I'm not getting hop particles getting stuck in there. But
I do dry hop a lot, but I don't normally take that dry hop into the keg. And if I did, in particular, I would definitely put it in a bag if I was dry hopping in the keg.
Right. And that's why I'm saying, that's why I qualified it by saying in the keg. The one time my pop and I dry hopped in the keg was that, it was one of the session IPAs from last year. It's Trub Club. It wasn't Low Tide. It was the one we did before that. That was also a session. But either way, we did it and didn't bag it. And it was a bad day when we were going.
I can imagine.
It was a bad day. The first 18 pours, you're picking hot particles out of your teeth.
If you've got that kind of condition with your keg beer, you will probably need to clean the disconnect, take it apart.
It was Joe who recommended it, and I was like, Joe, do you like picking hot particles out of your teeth? I was like, I don't understand the problem, man. No. I'm giving him 5.
Joe eats hops for breakfast, though.
It's a new it's his cereal. He just pours beer on top of hops. And
definitely.
Yeah. But anyways, James, thank you so much, man. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Guys.
Can't wait to see you back. We'll catch you later, dude.
We'll see y'all soon.
Have fun. Have a beer for me.
I will do it for both of y'all.
All right. Adios, man. See ya.
Bye-bye.
So that was cool. I'm glad that he did hop on with this, because James, I gave him every out. I was like, dude, you're on vacation. You need a vacation. I'm not. He was like, no, I want to call in. I want to be like, I was pumped that he enjoys doing it, because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who gets the kick out of doing this show, because you make me feel so bad about using your time so much, Todd. But anyway, you're not gonna. You don't like it so much that you're going to do the show from your vacation next week, or? Oh, we're pre-recording, because I like vacation more than I like. Let's get on to the 4 draft questions that I curated for this week's episode.
Wow, I am kind of offended, I have to tell you.
Next episode we record.
Remember when we used to do the podcast by ourselves?
I do.
And all we ever asked for draft questions, I feel like we're going back to that now.
All we ever took were draft questions for the first 40 episodes. Anyway, our first question comes from our buddy Mark, who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. And Mark wrote, I'm a big fan of the podcast. Josh always complains about Reddit, but I actually discovered Homebrew Happy Hour in a Reddit comment about brewing podcasts. My question is about keg dip tubes. Recently, I was given a keg from my friend who is taking a break from the hobby. I have only one keg before he gave me this one, and his keg has 2 long dip tubes off of both posts, while my keg has 1 long dip tube and 1 very short air dip tube. Does it even matter that my new keg has 2 long dip tubes? Should I pull it and replace it, or will everything be okay? He's referring to, obviously, the gas and liquid side of the dip tubes. Traditionally, the liquid is longer because it needs to be to draw the liquid out from as low as it can go, which is basically touching the bottom of the keg, while the gas one doesn't have to be as long or as deep because it's going to be pushing that CO2 through the liquid regardless. And so it's usually very short. Todd, I'll let you answer the question. And then I'll give my viewpoints because I use kegs where both.
Oh, no, go. You answer it and I'll give my viewpoints.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it doesn't matter. I would leave it as is. The lower it is, I almost sometimes think, not based on science, which is like 99% of the stuff that I ever spout, that having the longer gas dip tube is better because it allows the CO2 to start from bottom up, and I like that. I think it immerses the CO2 maybe a little bit easier, or disperses it a little bit better, more evenly when it's going bottom up as opposed to top down. There's certainly no reason to change it. The only time I've actually ever had to manipulate dip tubes is on the liquid side if I need to cut it, because if you have like a very hoppy beer, you don't want to draw from the trub that the traditional liquid dip tube would be as long as it is. So you can cut it up an inch, and that way, in theory, you avoid some of the nastiness that spits around at the bottom and only get clear liquid. But I've never heard of anyone modifying their gas side unless they purposely made it longer to add a carb stone on it, which I'm wondering if his buddy maybe had it longer with the carbonation stone on it at some point. No, I say that a carbonation stone is pretty much part of the dip tube. He would have noticed that.
I mean, maybe it has one on there. He just doesn't know what that is.
You're right. Because you're right. He didn't take it out to see it down there. And kegs are dark. Maybe that is. What do you think? Is that what you're going with? That has to probably be.
I mean, I've in 15 years of being in the keg business, I've never seen a gas dip tube long, unless somebody had put a carb stone on it and wanted it on the bottom for that reason, which almost all the coffee people do. All the nitro coffee people do that. For beer, I mean, I've never seen it. I can't imagine that it came like that. Somebody took a liquid dip tube and put it on the gas side for some reason. Probably his buddy. He should probably ask his buddy why he did that. I really don't know. Will it hurt anything? Off the top of my head, I can't think of any reason it would hurt anything.
Well, hold on. Let's assume that it is a carb stone, because I know carb stone is not necessarily desirable for every beer, like for carbing and serving. I mean, and most people don't use it for beer, like you said, right? I mean, in our experience, I had it on a keg that I use for water, and then a lot of cold brew coffee people use it. Do you find it a common upgrade when you're selling kegs that people add the carb stone for their keg that they're going to use for beer?
We sell some. Well, I just ordered some more, actually, because they're a little bit difficult to put in. What you have to do is you have to put it in, and then because a carb stone's bigger than the actual opening, so what you have to do is come in from the bottom and push it up, because you got a little room to work, and then you have to actually flare it with a machine and then stick it back down. And of course, you got to make sure the O-ring's in there when you do that. Although you could slip another O-ring probably on the top by expanding it and pushing it over if you ever had to replace one. But for the most part, it's a pretty major modification, and it's not. You can't ever get it out again after that. So, I don't know. I would say that a lot of people probably almost everybody uses them for, like I said, for coffee. People definitely order them for beer as well. I've never needed one because I force carb in like 3 or 4 minutes usually, and it works well. And I've been happy with it for many years. So I just never have seen the need for one.
So you would say then, Mark, ask your buddy. Ask your buddy.
Ask your buddy.
Did he put it on there? And even if he did, would you tell him, oh man, I wouldn't use a carb stone?
It won't hurt anything. Okay. It'll work fine.
Okay. Yeah. Because I didn't even think about that. You're right. The likelihood of the manufacturer doing it is like 0%.
I've never seen it in 15 years ever.
Right. Yeah. So. 15 years, man. Golly.
Over 15 years of using kegs, but obviously in the business. So.
Yes, obviously. I just forget how old you are. You know, I am approaching the age.
Very old.
Yeah, I'm approaching the age you were when I started working for you. I think 13.
Yeah, that means I'm a lot older.
Oh, you were 40 because it was 13 years ago. So you were 40, and I'll be 36 this year.
Wow.
I hope
You're catching up.
I hope to be accomplished like you, mister, whenever I'm your age, 53. Oh, and real quick, too, Mark, thank you so much for submitting the question. I actually am very excited about this. I can't make it because I'm going to be going out of town and the logistics didn't work out. Your mom's 85th birthday is this weekend, and your pop is 86, I think.
Yep.
God, that's going to be fun. That's a cool party.
Yeah. It's going to be a great party. She's turning 85, so yeah. Congratulations, Mom.
She invited me, or really she invited
Not that she's ever listened to this podcast, but congratulations anyway.
She invited me. She invited my girls, and I happened to be in the same room. I don't know if I got invited, but she did invite my daughters who can't drive, so I think I'm invited, but like I said, we can't make it. But anyways.
I think she would put up with you if you brought your daughters.
She puts up with me when my daughters or my wife is around. It's wonderful.
Yeah, she likes them.
She does. She likes them a lot. But anyways, Mark, thank you so much for submitting the question. This is a great time to remind you, if and when we take your question on a future episode, we do give you a $25 gift card to kegconnection.com, courtesy of Chief Keg Washer himself, Mr. Todd Burns. Moving on to question number 2, which also got submitted at homebrewhappyhour.com from Douglas, who wrote, I have a short and simple question. Since Todd is the king of kegerators, I like that, king of kegerators, I'd like him to tell me the formula for determining tubing length when designing a kegerator system for my home. I know there are actually calculators out there for restriction. You did a whole video, I bring it up all the time, about foam, where you kind of talk about using restriction as a solution to foam. There's a lot of ways we can take this question, but I'll let you start it off. Is there some formula you follow with knowing the inner diameter of the tubing versus the length and blah, 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 blah?
Sorry, I'm changing my signature in my email.
Oh, it's a king of kegerators? I like that. I do like King of Keg. It's better than Chief Keg Washer. King of Kegerators. King of
Kegerators. I like that. Thank you very much.
While we're doing this episode, I'm going to go buy the domain kingofkegerators.com and I'm going to Photoshop you with a crown and maybe animate a GIF.
I like Douglas. Yeah. So first and foremost, I think the word tubing is always confusing to some people, and I shouldn't say always confused. It's confusing to some people because we call the metal part a dip tube. But what he's referring to when he says tubing is the hose, which is called tubing in the industry a lot. But by people that don't use corny kegs, so they never have to deal with the dip tubes. Because I've gotten a lot of questions over the years, and there's been confusion on that when I start talking about, they're talking about the tube and they mean dip tube. And I think they're talking about hose. So sometimes I've given bad information, but I'm sure he's got to be talking about hose, right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So it would be the rule of thumb is what I'll give you first. And that's to get proper restriction. You're supposed to need 4.5 feet of 3/16 ID hose. And that will put enough pressure on a standard, 10, 12 PSI beer to properly restrict it. All manufacturers that I know of go ahead and round that up to 5. They put 5 feet on. 5 feet should give you the proper amount of restriction for your beer, and that's all you should need. However, we also sell it in 7 feet, 10 feet, and 15 feet. 15 feet is ridiculous. You should never need 15 feet. I mean, you got a serious issue somewhere, but you know what? So many people requested it over the years that we just finally put it on there. I mean, it won't hurt anything other than it'll really slow your pour down. So your pour is going to go really, really slow, but it's going to be really restricted. So if you're having foam, it could certainly fix that issue. So there's definitely formulas out there. When I took draft beer class, they had a formula that everybody uses, and it's based on a lot of things. It's based on how far does it go up? How far does it go down? How far away is it? All these things are pretty much for long draw systems. Because a kegerator is almost always the same, people have done that calculation a million times, and it's 5 feet. So that's the simple answer. But if you're having maybe an elevated temperature issue with your kegerator, so you can't get it down as cold as you would like, maybe you can only get it to 40, then longer hose would help with that. Some other things would help as well. It would help with some other things as well, like a highly carbonated beer, like Coors Light is a good example. If you take 5 feet of hose and you serve Coors Light out of it, it's almost always going to foam, especially in the beginning, because it's carbonated to a level that's equivalent of about 16 PSI. So that's another place where you might want a longer hose or a Belgium or something like that. But 5 feet is a good rule of thumb.
I love that it took you 4.5 minutes to then say, but the short answer is 5 feet. You could have just said 5 feet. I mean, you could have.
Yeah, but that's the short answer, but there's a long answer. I mean, that's the reason people buy different links, is because there's different things that come up and they want to compensate. They're always compensating for something when it's more than 5 feet.
God, you sound like my wife.
I know all about compensating. So
me too.
Yeah.
And also to complicate it even more, I've become a fan as a man who is what's the nice word for lazy again? Time efficient or effort efficient, energy efficient.
I don't know. You have to tell me what this statement is first, and then I can label
efficient.
it for you.
I like when we did the Homebrew Con presentation last year on your Keezer build. I like flow control faucets and minimal sized tubing hose.
Absolutely.
I like the fact that some of your lines in there, and you're using 5/16 for blue hose for your liquid lines, and some of them are as short. It looks like it's 18 inches.
Because it has no bearing whatsoever on the restriction.
That's what I mean.
With 5/16 ID hose to properly restrict it, I know 1/4 inch to properly restrict it, I think you need 17 feet or 20 feet or something like that. So, 5/16, it's probably 40 feet. I don't really know. I've never done the calculation, but yeah, the wonderful thing about flow control is you don't have to worry about the length of the hose. You don't have to worry about temperature variations. You don't have to worry about a lot of things. You just turn the knob and control the restriction.
Exactly. And since my pop and I upgraded his kegerator setup, the towers with those Ep.241s, life has been great. I mean, it's been really nice being able to we have a lot of, ever since I talked about it, I've been getting a ton of emails from people like, I use the Ep.241s too. They're fantastic. And some people use the V10s like you have at your house on your setup. And James uses Ep.241s at home, I think, doesn't he? I don't remember what he's using. James always
X1s, yes.
Those are flow control is where I always sound like a broken record when people write in, not for the show but for customer service, and they're like, I'm having foam, what should I do? I always send them the link to your video on how to handle foam and hear the different solutions, and flow control is one of those solutions, and I always highlight that one where I'm like, look, the Ep.241s specifically are very affordable for what you get. I think it's worth it. And then you don't have to worry about those other factors that are covered in the video as much. Obviously, you want to make sure your beer is as cold or as to proper temperature as possible when you're serving it. If you allow it to fluctuate in temps, especially on the higher end of temperatures, you can expect foam. And then if on flow control, you have to dial it in. But if you don't have flow control, you might just have to wait for that keg to cool down, right? You had to look on your face.
Absolutely. I mean, we went to Teddy's brew house a couple of weeks ago, and they were serving off V10 flow control. And it was so different from so many bars I walk into. They were not pouring foam off at all. So that was really that was neat to see. So
that's the selling point that James has at bars. That's how he's able to get those bars. Yeah. He just got that new Hofbrauhaus, not new, but I think the one in Chicago is who he just secured. And mainly his angle was stop wasting beer. And you're German. Why aren't you drafting off of German taps, man? But
right.
But anyway, yeah. For Douglas. The formula, I won't rehash it. Todd went over that. If you are interested in resolving restriction through length of hose, Todd went over that. And we have it as part of the article, I believe, at homebrewhappyhour.com, where Todd's video about foam solutions is included. So there's a lot of people who have different opinions, and there's not necessarily a standardized thing. Or pardon me, you did say like a standardized thing. Yes, there is. Don't listen to me. It is a science. I'm just not good at math. You can go to homebrewhappyhour.com, look up that article, or rewind it and listen to what Todd said, or do what I do. Do an inline flow control, or do a V10, or do an X1, or do an event faucet, and thank me later. I promise you. People think I'm just some. Todd would confirm I'm a terrible salesman. I'm really bad at sales, and people think on the show that I'm just pushing stuff as a salesman. But I actually, the event faucet's like my favorite handheld thing in the world for draft beer. I use it all the time with kombucha at home, or seltzer water, and with beer. We did that video, Todd, of you showing how to use it when you're force carving. I think that is going to convert a lot of people into believers when they're like, oh, I can force carb on the fly. But anyways, I'm totally digressing. Douglas, thank you so much for submitting your question. Moving on to question number 3 was a text message from our buddy Brent at 325-305-6107. Brent wrote, if I want to take my keg beer with me on vacation, which is a 5-hour drive, what should I do to keep it safe? Will the temperature change affect the taste? Is there a certain amount of time I need to let it chill before serving again? I think last summer I took this question, and instead of just telling him, hey, don't listen to this episode, I thought, you know what? Brent seems like a nice guy. I like it when people call or text in. I'm going to take the question again. First, to keep it safe, buckle it up, Brent. Just buckle it up. That's safety first. No, I think what he meant by keep it safe is to keep it, the integrity of it in check. He already is on the right page of thinking, Todd, by asking about temperature change. He understands it's going to warm up in that 5 hours. And for you, I'll watch you leave beer out of your kegerator when you're cleaning it all day and then put it back in. You've never had any qualms about letting beer warm up a little. Do you think that, when you hook it back up, do you let it sit overnight before you start serving, or do you start serving whenever you want to drink that beer again?
Well, when I'm cleaning, it doesn't take that long, so it's really hasn't warmed up that much. But 5 hours is not going to hurt anything.
Right. Well, I agree, but for elaboration, is 5 hours enough to make it where it's going to be a terribly foamy mess if he just hooks it up right when he gets to his vacation spot and tries to pour, or will the temperature not be that drastic? Probably. I mean, he didn't tell me where he's vacationing. He didn't tell me where he's driving, what the temperature is.
Yeah, if he's vacationing in Alaska, he should be fine. But no, I mean, I would say, if the beer gets over 38 degrees, it's going to foam.
Yeah, you're right. That is, so let it chill until it gets to roughly that before serving again, correct?
Yeah, if he's talking about going somewhere that's 5 hours away, but he's going to stop at the grocery store and it's 105 degrees outside and leave it in the car, and it gets 120 in the car for 2 hours, then he may have an issue. I wouldn't let the beer get super hot, but I think just putting in your car and driving somewhere 5 hours, it's not going to hurt it. I don't know what he's going to do with it when he gets it there. What I do is I have a large ice chest, and I actually have a large ice chest I bought years ago that one side pops out, and I can stick the keg up when I get there and serve beer out of it. And that works really well, but it lays on its side while it's transporting. Now, half the keg sticking out of more than a third of the keg is sticking out of the top, but I just wrap a towel around it, and it's ice cold. I've got ice on the bottom, and remember, it's drawing from the bottom. So, I've never had any issue with that, but Yeah, if the beer gets to be 40, 45 degrees, 50 degrees, it's going to foam. You got to cool it back down.
That reminds me. Can I borrow your, not that device, can I borrow your big, I won't name the brand on here because they don't give us money. I've never asked them for money, but the big insulated one that I borrow every beach trip. Can I borrow that again? I need to borrow that. Is that okay?
Sure, as long as you're responsible for it if it gets stolen.
Obviously. You've done it to me like 5 times. And I think every time you tell me the same thing. I think I even signed a waiver for it once.
Yeah, and I think I replaced the plug on it from last time when you borrowed it.
No,
leaking.
Okay.
I found a new plug, and it also has a washout for a hose on that new plug, if I remember right.
Okay. Well, the plug was missing. We knew that when I took it from you. And I said, no, it'll be fine. Well,
that's why I replaced it. I wanted to make sure it was in good shape the next time you used it.
you implied like I probably...
No, I wasn't implying
That's what I inferred. We'll leave it in the comments.
Just wanted to make sure that it was in good shape when you borrowed it.
We'll do a poll. Leave your comments below. Is it my fault for missing the... Did Todd imply it was my fault that the plug was missing?
So...
Back to Brent's question.
You borrowed it a year ago. I think that's the last time it was used.
Oh, good. Then it should be in great shape for me now.
Yeah, I hope I put that plug in there and remember to. Otherwise, it's going to leak all over your car again. But
yeah, it will. I'll make sure it's there. It's nice because I'm going to go pick up. I'm going to pick up a new case of Fru for the beach trip. We're talking to James about his beach beer. Mine's very predictable. I'm going to have some Hans Pils in there, some Fru. And I don't know. I'll definitely
some double IPA.
Some double IPA. I might actually take some of that Mosaic from Community.
Oh, I love that
really
beer.
Good. And at night, I don't mind getting sloshed at the beach. You know, it's
that's the only problem with that beer.
It is the only problem. With Brent's question, to wrap it up, though, I think that, one, taking keg beer with you is always a good idea. If it's having good beer on a vacation, it makes the vacation that much better. Keeping it safe. Todd, do you think like you lock down kegs, and I've seen you and I do it too, to make sure they're not sloshing around too much, because that will also contribute to foam. And if you have any kind of trub or something in the keg, you're going to get some dirty pours the first few times. Is there anything you can recommend, just like wedging it between stuff, or if he has the availability to actually lock it up in a seatbelt?
Yeah, I wedge it between. I usually take one of the passenger seats and wedge it down in the back seat, but he may have his whole family with him. I mean, it would be great to put it in an ice chest if you could do that, or just stick it somewhere. It'll be fine.
It will be fine.
I mean, you're gonna mix it up. If you're driving for 5 hours, if you've got a bunch of crap on the bottom of it, I would pour a few beers before you leave, because that stuff's all going to get mixed up. It's not going to settle out immediately. So.
You know what? Also, maybe I'll fill a growler. That Mackinac.
Why don't you take a keg?
We could. I don't know where it would go. You know what, though? I think actually, so this beach house we're getting has 2 fridges. We don't need 2 fridges for food. We could put a keg in that fridge and then draw off. I could bring the event faucet from Sam Becker and draw off of that. That's not a bad idea. I'm going to call my pop right after this show and tell him I came up with a great idea. He actually listens to the show or watches it on YouTube, so he'll know. Unless I edit this part out, but I'm not going to because I'm lazy. Anyways, Brent, thank you so much for submitting your question. Moving on, we got one final question for this week's show. Came from our buddy Ivan P., who used the submission form at homebrewhappyhour.com. Ivan wrote, "Long-time listener here. I love the dynamic between you guys." Really? The information you share is helpful too, but the real joy of listening is that it feels like I'm hanging out with a group of friends, enjoying themselves and talking about beer. We hate each other, actually, Ivan. This is all an act. I don't hang out with these guys.
I love Josh.
He's a liar. I won't go down that rabbit trail. But I'm stealing my question from an unnamed website because it actually is an interesting question. What is the biggest mistake you have made during a brew day, but the beer still turned out to be just fine? I've talked to Ivan since, and it's Reddit, and I only bring that up because the first guy also talked about how I always complain about Reddit. I don't hate Reddit, guys. Reddit hates me. I post something, and then it's like either gets downvoted into oblivion because I had the audacity to say, "Hey, we published a new article about CO2 stamps," and like, "Oh, we hate you. It's all about other things." And either way, Reddit's great. I'm on Reddit all the time, pretending to work. I love Reddit. Y'all can submit Reddit stuff.
I
all the
should
time.
go on Reddit sometime. I've never used Reddit.
Reddit's great. Yeah, you would do good. James is on Reddit frequently. Reddit's good. There's nothing wrong with Reddit. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff wrong about Reddit, but there's also good things about Reddit. It's a good question. I will start it. The biggest mistake that comes to my mind, there's two, and one of them was a mistake in the traditional sense of, I messed up, and the other was equipment failure, and it still turned out to be a good beer. The first one was missing out on the Cara pills, or no, the what was the specialty malt for those pale ales that we did, that Lorena's recipe for all the Hang 'em High?
I forgot.
whatever the color, the specialty malt was, I didn't put it in my batch, and so on that video that we just published on our taste test, and we go over it, you see that my pale ale is the palest of the pale ales. I was going really true to style because y'all's, they're more golden pale. And I know that maybe in the BJCP book, it says it's supposed to be that SRM, but I was going for Kolsch pale. Okay. That's a real pale. So that's my first one. Todd, I can think of them. Oh, don't get that look off your face.
It's just funny because I asked you several times, are you sure you put all the grains in here? And you were like, of course I put all the grains in here. It was so funny. Oh, that was funny.
It wasn't that funny. But what is one mistake or however many brew day stories you have that you can think of where you thought, crap, I really messed it up, and then the beer turned out to be pretty good?
I'd say the 5 times I've left the false bottom out before I poured the grains in. And, I was brewing with Eric one time, and I don't think I left the false bottom out that time. I think it just got stuck. Like it got stuck bad. Right. And, I had to basically pour all the wort out into the boil kettle to get it out of the way, and then fix the issue, make sure that everything was seated good, and then put it all back in and started it again maybe 20 minutes later, and just had all kinds of problems. And it was one of the best beers I've ever brewed. It was it wasn't, I'm trying to, ESB. Yeah. It was an ESB, and it was so good. I was like, we'll never be able to duplicate that again, you know?
Yeah, it's hard when the mistakes end up making something good, and you're like, well, I can't really do that mistake again on a future brew day.
And I've done that with a false bottom like 5 times, like starting to pour the grains in and go, oh, crap, the false bottom's sitting there again. How can I do that again? And, do the same thing, drain everything out, put the false bottom in, clean everything, put the false bottom in, start again. And the beer turned out fine.
Hey, remember that time that we were filming the Netstrat Brew Day and you poured the grains in instead of steeped them because you're a big dum-dum? Do you remember that one?
Yeah. I've actually made a lot of, I thought you were going to say, remember that time at band camp?
Yeah, do you remember that time at band camp? How dare you? My pop and I, we brewed that breakfast stout, 10-gallon batches. It wasn't the breakfast stout because we did it on the cooler brew with both years, I think. What was it, Dad? You have to let me know, and I'll bring it up on a future episode because we're about to record the second for next week, and I'm not going to have the information by then because you won't have seen this by then. But my dad and I brewed on that Spiked Solo, and it was like the second or third batch on it because my dad was like, we're going to get this system figured out, and we're going to use it because it's so nice, da-da-da. And again, it had a stuck mash, because we got the prototype. Long story short, the prototype false bottom was not very good. They fixed it. Everyone who has Spiked Solos have swear by them. Spike made some incredible stuff. We love you, Ryan and Ben, all that good stuff. But the prototype unit has less than desirable on that false bottom. So we had this stuck mash, and we had to finish the batch in. We had to knock it down to a 5-gallon, I believe, is what we did, and finish it in the Anvil Foundry. And that beer, oh my God, now I'm saying it turned out great, and I don't remember which batch we brewed, but it ended up being a solid beer, even though we had this whole thing where we're scooping grains out, and we're having to use Brewer's Friend calculator to determine what we needed to readjust this batch because, damn it, we're not wasting a brew day. And we got it done, thankfully. But that was equipment failure. That wasn't like a mistake. day.
What about the time you and Kenny scorched the war? Oh, never mind. This is about when the beer turned out just fine. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, remember for a half a minute there, and shout out to you, Kenny. We don't talk about that messed up brew day enough, do we? There was a one day where it was like, this kind of tastes like a boozy Scotch ale, and it was for like an hour of that one day, because then you're like, nope, there's the green apple and the scorch, and we have video of you, Todd, pouring it out of your keg.
Yeah, all 5 gallons running down the hill.
5 gallons running down your hill because it was so gross. I would love to hear. This is one of those questions. Listener feedback has become one of my favorite things now, because I'm getting so much good feedback and stories. What is a brew day that you've had where you thought you did some mess up or some mistake happened and you thought, oh, this is going to suck, but I'm this far along, got to do it anyways, and the beer turned out great? I'd love to hear it. You can either email Joshua@homebrewhappyhour.com or put it in the comments below. What?
No. I have to say, I've been meaning to say this for several episodes. I really like the listener feedback when they record their feedback.
Okay, no, I do too. I prefer it. I think.
How can we do that more?
Well, we'd already give them gift. Do you want me to up?
No. Oh. How do we?
I need to get more people. People
put the comments here or do this. What about how can they record it instead? 325-305-6107. You dial that right now, and you're going to hear, "Hey guys, Joshua here with Homebrew Happy Hour, and thanks for calling our hotline and leave a message." Blah blah blah. A lot of people through text message, because we get a ton of text messages, sometimes inappropriate. Guys, I don't want to see that. But anyway, we get a lot of messages, and people have told me before in the text message, "I don't want to hear my voice. I listen to your show. I don't need to hear my voice. I don't like the way my voice sounds. I'll just type it out." And so a lot of people haven't you heard our voices though?
Oh yeah, people think that I like the sound of my voice, but I don't edit the show mainly because I'm lazy, but also because I don't want to hear myself talk for 43 minutes or however long this episode's been going for, 50 minutes. I don't need to hear myself talk, so I'm not the biggest fan of my voice either. So yeah, I agree with you, Todd. I don't know how to entice people to leave voicemails, but I'm just happy at the feedback we get and the questions submitting. I know that the $25 gift card is really why most people do it, and I know a lot of people join the Chub Club recipe receiving because they just want to get cheap recipe kits. I get all this stuff, guys, but like Todd said, we like hearing back from you, but actually hearing from you. And who's the guy? Darn it! He was our very first voicemail.
Yeah, that was the first one you ever did was a voicemail, and I thought, oh, this is what we're gonna do every week. We're gonna have a voice recording every week, and then you read one, and I thought, well, that was an anomaly, and then you read another one, and then you read another one. Yeah, I like the voice.
Okay, fine. Call and leave your feedback at 325-305-6107 and make Todd's day. We want some voicemail for future episodes. And if you don't, then I will have to take your text message and give you a really goofy voice as I read it on the hotline. I won't read it on here. I'll go, "Hey, this is Brent from Minnesota, and I just wanted to say that." I'll make you sound even worse, and people will think it was actually you. So,
and you can always start, if you do text it in, just start it out with "Screw Todd," and Josh will almost certainly put it on.
Yeah, people have figured out how to get their stuff on the show. Sucking up to me, dogging on you. I say that no one sucks up to me. I usually take the ones that made me laugh too. But anyways, wrapping up Ivan's question. No, we don't need to wrap it up. Biggest mistakes. Mistakes happen, but I think unless it's a really big mistake in a critical part of the brew day, Charlie Papazian's mantra of relax, don't worry, have a home brew. Usually, I think people overthink brew days a lot, and they might say, my biggest mistake is I accidentally pitched the yeast and it was 82 and I didn't get it down to the 78 or whatever. It's like, you'll probably be all right. Most mistakes that people encounter are overcomeable. Is that a word?
Yeah, my dad pointed out to me the other day that I had brewed beer with him when I was like 7 years old. So now I'm going to start saying, in my 46 years of brewing,
you should. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. People...
I do not ever remember like stopping a batch. I screwed up. This beer's not going to be any good. I'm dumping it.
Right.
I mean, I have dumped beer after it's fermented and I put it in a keg before, but only one time can I remember doing that. But yeah, I almost every time I've been able to salvage it. It's amazing how forgiving it is. Like we worry about it so much, and we constantly think, oh, I screwed my beer up by doing that. Oh, I screwed my beer up by doing that. You know what? You probably didn't. It's a lot more forgiving and a lot easier to get a good beer than we think it is.
Yeah, it's not like medical surgery where it's like I'm taking out the appendix and that was the spleen. He'll probably be okay. Like it's not as
I'm watching. Liz and I are watching that Dr. Death series about the surgeon from Texas. That he had like 43 surgeries and 27 of them were botched. Yeah, it's not like that. You can botch 27 batches of beer and have them come out good. Probably almost every time.
Potable, at least. Maybe good might not be the right word sometimes, but potable for sure. Potable. But anyways, thank you, Todd, for doing this.
Thank you.
I'm glad James was on with us earlier, and I'm glad that you were such a nice guy that we're going to actually record here in a little bit with Joe Ermis. He's going to be on the show again, fulfilling the third role, so I don't have to record from the beach next week. So
Should I change shirts for the next show, or is this okay?
Let's go shirtless. We'll just do next episode shirtless.
Well, let's just start now.
Okay. I'll see you here in a little bit. And that will do it for this episode of the Homebrew Happy Hour. If you have a question you would like us to discuss on a future episode, you can go to homebrewhappyhour.com and click on that submit a question link at the top of the page, or now you can call or text them in by using 325-305-6107. If you're ready to take your brewing to the next level, go check out the sweet new Herm system at Brautag.com, or go directly to kegconnection.com/Brautag and take advantage of the incredible introductory offer going on for a limited time. On behalf of Todd Burns, the vacationing James Carlson, and the Pearl Media Network, I'm Joshua Stubing. Thank you for listening.